studying about the human brain. This is the most important part of the central nervous system. The human brain is the controlling organ of our body. So this is the structure of the human brain. First, let's understand the various parts of the human brain. As told earlier in the previous class, the brain has three important parts: the forebrain, the midbrain and the hindbrain. The forebrain is the biggest part of the brain and it occupies a major area. So this shaded area, which is actually like a inside of a walnut. Have you seen a walnut? So when you break a walnut, the inside appears to be same. So this major part of the brain is actually your forebrain. I have marked it here, that's your forebrain. This is made up of your cerebrum. So cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Remember this. This is the largest part of your brain. This is also the thinking part. Here the thinking takes place. What actually happens? It has the areas to receive the sensory impulses from the various receptors. The receptors are present in various sensory organs. We have 5 sensory organs if you remember your primary classes. So you have ears to receive the hearing information. You have got your eyes to receive your sight information. You have got your skin to receive your touch information. You have got your nose to receive your smell information, and you have got your tongue to receive your taste information. So receptors are present in these sensory organs. So they receive it and send the information to the cerebrum. These receptors also have got some specialized names. For example, for smell, the receptors are known as olfactory receptors. Remember children? The receptors will detect the smell and are present in your nose, because nose is a sensory organ, will detect the smell. So these receptors are your olfactory receptors, and the receptors which are present on your tongue are known as gustatory receptors. So gustatory receptors are present on the tongue and are responsible to detect the different kind of taste. So these receptors, what they do, they receive the information from these sensory organs, bring it to the cerebrum so as to give the information. Now this cerebrum also has got the areas to associate. What actually happens, there is already some information stored inside our brain. So the newly acquired information from the different sensory organs is then associated with the information which is present already in our brain because of our past experiences. After the association, the brain then interprets the information and then sends the message back to the muscles for the proper action to be taken. So that's why we say the cerebrum is the thinking part of the brain. Okay? Because it has thought, it has received the information, it has associated it, and then it has interpreted that information before taking an action. So this is the first part of the brain, that's the biggest part of the brain. Coming to the midbrain is actually that part which helps in controlling the involuntary actions. What are these involuntary actions? Actions which take place on its own. For example, you don't tell your heart to beat, the heart is beating. Okay, so that's your involuntary action. Whenever we have the sight and smell of a food which we like, suddenly our mouth becomes watery. So this is an involuntary action. You don't say saliva come out in my mouth because there is a food in front of me which I love. So this is an involuntary action. So involuntary action is controlled by midbrain as well as some part of the hindbrain also. Coming to the last part of the brain, that's the hindbrain. The hindbrain is again made up of 3 parts: the cerebellum, the pons and the medulla oblongata. The cerebellum is placed at the back side of the brain and it is responsible for the precision of voluntary actions. So that means if I am thinking something, so I am doing something voluntarily, so the precision will depend on my cerebellum. It also helps in maintaining the body posture and balance. So that means if my cerebellum is not working properly, then I will not be able to maintain my body posture and balance. So if I hold this pencil, I won't be able to write until and unless my cerebellum is working properly. I won't be able to ride a bicycle because the balancing act will come because of your cerebellum. So if I say a person is not able to hold a pencil properly, that means there is some defect in the cerebellum part of the brain. If I ask you a question, a person is unable to ride a bicycle, so name the part of the brain which is not functioning properly. Then you will answer, students, this is the cerebellum because it is responsible for maintaining the posture and balance of the body. The next part of the hind brain is your pons. Pons is helping respiration and is actually a breathing side. The details of this part of the brain we will study in higher classes. Coming to the last part, that's the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata controls the involuntary actions as I just explained to you. So if we talk about the blood pressure is automatically maintained in our body. As well as the salivation, as I told you, the moment you sight your favorite food, the mouth becomes watery, so that's your salivation. Vomiting, you don't like to vomit, it happens all of its own. So this is an involuntary action and this is controlled by the medulla oblongata part of the brain. Okay, let's map these parts of the brain on a diagram. So we have studied that there are three parts of the brain. So if I see this diagram, this is the front part while this is the back part. Okay. So the major part of the brain, this area which you are able to see, this is your forebrain. It is your largest part of the brain and the structure is something like the inside of a walnut. Have you seen a walnut? So if you break open a walnut, the structure is similar to the forebrain. It has the grey areas and the white areas, but again we will be studying about this in the higher classes. So cerebrum is your forebrain, the thinking part of the brain. This is your midbrain. This is your midbrain. It has your hypothalamus in it. Okay, and this part is your hindbrain. The hindbrain has three important parts. So this one is the pons, this one is your medulla oblongata, and this part, which is somewhat circular in shape, is your cerebellum. So this pons, cerebellum and the medulla oblongata makes your hind brain, and this nervous system of the brain is then continuous with the spinal cord which runs at the back side of your body inside the vertebral column, also known as your backbone. So children, it's not so difficult to draw the structure of the human brain, because many a times students think it's so complex. It's not so complex because you just have to draw a somewhat egg-shaped, oval-shaped structure. Then inside it you have to demarcate the mid part of the brain, a circular part, and then you have to shade the last part, that's the most biggest part of the brain. The labeling is very important when you are doing the same in your exams, because actually is the labeling the exact position of that part in the structure is assessed. So remember to draw a very neat diagram of the brain.